Sacco and Felix, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFilas.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.
The clock is ticking. We are about to chat live with former Congressman Peter King. But first, the vice president on the situation.
But we feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
And with us now, as always, former Congressman Peter King. Congressman, thank you so much for appearing. How does this play out? The stakes are awfully high.
Well, they certainly are awfully high. President Trump has brought it to this level. I think it was something that had to be done. If it's not being done now, it had to be done 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now.
Agreed.
We're in a much better position to control the situation right now than we would be then. I could say the president should have done this over the last 25, 30 years. But anyway, we are where we are. If I had to bet, I think Iran will make some concession, and they will agree to negotiate on others. And based on that, President Trump may move back the deadline. They have to make at least one significant concession. What it's going to be, I don't know. But now that it's gone this far, they can't just stonewall and expect nothing to happen. So it's going to be interesting. Listen, this is it's a dramatic moment in U.S. history. I go back. I'm old enough to remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the world felt it was on the edge of nuclear warfare any moment, and it worked itself out. No, actually, the United States worked it out. But so at a moment like this again, but it's not something that we can avoid. It's not like saying, "Oh, if only Trump didn't do this, or if only we just waited a while." No, sooner or later, this was a day of reckoning that had to come, and I'd rather have it at a time of our choosing rather than the enemy's.
I agree with you 1,000%, Congressman. The fact of the matter is, Iran has been a bully to the world, and ultimately, at some point, somebody's going to have to stand up to the bully, and that's exactly what President Trump is doing. This should have been done years ago, but every American president in recent memory punted and passed and gave them frozen money from bank accounts and so on. That's Obama, Biden. Oh, I don't even know where to start with him. And now this president is left cleaning up their mess. What do you say to those on the left, Congressman King? And you just alluded to this, that, They blame Trump for all of this. It's Trump's personality. He's unhinged. Look at the profanity he's using. Those are negotiating stances and positions. I don't understand why people don't understand that. He's trying to force them to do the right thing. And those on the left just don't seem, or nor do they want to care to understand that.
No, they don't. And first of all, let me just say that this is not the first time that tactics like this have been used. I mean, I know a little bit about Korea. Back in 1953, when President Eisenhower took over, without consulting our allies, without going to anyone else, he sent a message through India to deliver to China that if there was not a ceasefire immediately in Korea, he was going to use nuclear weapons. And that's what brought about the end of the Korean War. Now, that brought us, we didn't even know about it. And it wasn't, he didn't contact NATO, he didn't contact all our allies, he didn't work it out. He just went right to it and threatened face-to-face with China and nuclear war if the war in Korea didn't end. So this is something that has worked in the past. Again, it should have been used more often, I think, going forward. But I think what President Trump is doing is, people talk about this being a unjust war, that somehow there was no imminent danger. Suppose in 1938, Roosevelt and then Chamberlain, who was then the British Prime Minister before Churchill, if they had agreed to move on Hitler and take him out, realizing what was going to lie ahead, and if they'd done it, let's face it, gas prices may have gone up, allies would be yelling, there's no need for this, there was nothing imminent about it, it wasn't going to happen, but the world would have been saved. You would have had literally millions of lives would have been saved, including 6 million Jews. So, I mean, that's what President Trump sees here, that it'd be easy for him. Listen, if he was just another politician who wants to get himself reelected or gets his party reelected, he'd be doing all this sweetheart and harmony stuff right now. But instead, he's making a tough decision, which is tough as any can be, and it may lead to, again, more war. It may lead to, but whatever happens now, whatever negative impact there is now, will be nothing compared to what the negative impact would be 5 or 10 years from now. And this also, though, in the end, guarantees a positive impact. The only question is how quickly we can get there.
So, Congressman King, help me with this. The leaders in Iran, the ones that are left, okay, that haven't been eliminated. Why are these folks so darn crazy and militant?
I think because they are crazy and militant. I remember, again, this is not giving away anything classified, but any of the psychological studies that we took show that Putin was not suicidal. Saddam Hussein was not suicidal. Kim Jong-un was not suicidal. The Iranian leaders are suicidal. At least most of them are. And that's what we're up against. That's why all this talk of working out agreements, long-term negotiations, a balance of terror, all of the things that may have worked with Russia, may work with China, will not work with Iran because they look upon death as a blessing. They look upon dying for the cause to be what they're put on earth for. And we're dealing with a totally different mentality. Even like with Hitler. Hitler was not crazy. He knew what he wanted. You could say he was insane as far as what his goals were. But as far as living and dying, he didn't want to die. That's for sure. And he wanted Germany to prevail. Iran, if they stand and fight and die for Islam, that's their goal in life and in death.
Now, I believe these are the same leaders that believe in whatever it is, but 15 virgins. I mean, absolute phonies. And I mean, for those on the left, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They're this Trump derangement syndrome. If Trump cured cancer tomorrow, those on the left would find something wrong with it. And I just don't understand, the left, Congressman, I'm lost these days because the left, all they want is to give away our money to people that don't want to work here in the country. And you don't have to be a citizen. You can come here and you can drop the baby and, you can get benefits and you can drop another baby and another baby and another baby and you can just keep on going. And if you've been arrested 5 times, it's not your fault. You can get arrested 15 more times. It's the victim's fault. This is what we get from Democrats these days. And I don't understand. And they go against Trump every chance on every single thing. How do we heal as a country?
I don't know how we're going to do it. I tell you, it's just we have to realize that the left is just they're in a different world from the rest of us. That's why in most of the disagreements, whatever you want to call it, political arguments over the last 65, 70 years, it was a question of how do we get there, not where do we belong. It was a question of tactics, of strategy. Should we do it now or wait later on? Now you have it. Listen, right now, when you listen to the media, some of them they can't help themselves. They want to report everything that's, quote, going wrong in the war. Actually, very little, if anything, has gone wrong in the war. For instance, when that plane was shot down, it came down last Friday or Saturday, and the media, this shows that we don't have control of the air. There have 13,000 missions have been launched, and one came down. I mean, That's not control of the airspace. I don't know what is, but they are so negative. They are so arrogant. They are so anti-American, really, is what it comes down to in many cases. They're self-hating. I know, some people talk about, Jews or anti-Israel are self-hating. I've had that said about Irish or different issues, self-hating. Well, these people are self-hating Americans. They can find everything to criticize. And when they're talking about Iran, the United States, and they're talking about the president and the Ayatollahs, there's like a moral equivalence. It's like two prize fighters in the ring, Ali and Frazier. No, this is good versus evil. I mean, nobody would have said that about Hitler when it was Roosevelt going up against Hitler. Nobody was saying, on the one hand, you have Roosevelt doing this, on the other hand, you have Hitler doing that, may the best man win. No, Hitler was evil, we had to win. In this case, Iran is evil, we have to win. And I just wish the American media would wise up to that. But maybe they have wised up. Maybe they're showing their true colors. The true colors are they're much more of a one world type. And I think they really resent the fact that the United States is so supreme, that the United States is so exceptional, and is so different from so many other countries, different in the most positive way, that they just can't bring themselves to really stand with the United States in this moment of need.
So again, we are in uncharted territory right now in terms of a deadline approaching 8 p.m. Eastern. So, Congressman King, we believe, I believe you believe that each side is going to save face. But with these nuts, the leaders in Iran, they may call President Trump's bluff and not do anything because they want to be seen as victims on a world stage. What happens then?
I think you would begin to see him taking out many key installations. Again, I don't have the map in front of me that the military would have with the sites. I don't think you would take them all out tonight. I think they will definitely try to minimize the amount of civilian casualties. But I think there will be some key strikes made, and ones which will be very, very punishing to Iran. I don't want to be needlessly hurting the Iranian people, because in the end, they are victims also, and it'll be very helpful to have them on our side. But we have to look out for America's interests first. So I think the president will take very strong action. What his targets will be, I don't think he would hit all the targets tonight, but I think he would hit some key targets.
Agreed. I think that at worst case scenario, that's what's going to happen. And if there are casualties, don't blame President Trump. Blame those nuts that are in leadership, religious nuts, if that's what we're going to call them, in Iran. So let me ask you, in the time that we have left, Congressman, we only have about 2 minutes left here, and it's back to your telephone calls, folks. So Mamdani comes forth with his racial idea in which he wants counseling for city workers, training, I should say, and dealing with pay parity issues or whatever. And my thing is this. You're hurting the people that you're claiming to help, people of color. You're telling them yet again that you are a lifelong second-class citizen. Here, here's a crutch, an excuse for you not to get out there and have to hustle like the rest of society. Then, so that was yesterday. Then, today, he comes forth and he opens a new $241 million hospital ward for inmates at Bellevue. Now, of course, it's got to have a basketball court, and it does, as he's pushing to close Rikers. And it's going to provide access to oncology, to cardiology, and neurology, right? And so this is a state-of-the-art facility. And, Congressman, please forgive me for saying this. I don't give a damn about these inmates' oncology, cardiology, nor their neurology. Why are we doing this, spending money like this for people that don't even value their own life?
I would say that's his way of saying that these poor people are there because they've been persecuted by the oppressors in New York City, by the power structure, by the middle-income people, by the evil people who own their own homes, by the evil people who have 1 or 2 jobs, trying to make enough to live in a good neighborhood and send their kids to good schools. They're the evil people. So he's trying to say these, the real victims here, the ones who New York should be working for, are the prisoners, because they're the ones who have suffered the most at the hands of the evil slave masters, and it's horrible. And one thing about New York, People, every group coming in has had a tough time, some tougher than others, but that's what makes us tough. In the long run, New York has come through. They don't need a mayor coming in, giving them special programs, going out of his way, feeling sorry for them. To me, that just shows contempt for the people he's attempting. He claims he really wants to help. So, no, his priorities are out of whack, but it's all part of an agenda that he's helping those who need the help because everyone else has oppressed them. And that's the way he looks upon those poor criminals, those poor rapists, those poor muggers, those poor murderers, those poor people who have been persecuted, and he's going to make sure they get the best health care that they can. In the meantime, we have homeless veterans in the streets.
Congressman King, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to your family. Look forward to chatting with you again soon. Thank you, sir.
You're the man. Thank you.
This is Roger Stone for American Sovereign Bullion. Since 2020, the U.S. dollar has lost over 20% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to rise. Call 844-272-2428 or go to asbgold.com now to get your free gold and silver guide and learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver delivered to your door or held in a gold IRA today. So go to asbgold.com now. Don't wait for the markets to drop. That's asbgold.com.